everyone. I'm John Evans, and welcome to another episode of One on One. People knew her as Rebecca Allen. Growing up in rural Bladen County, North Carolina, she learned how to play the piano, the flute, the bass guitar. She joined a jazz ensemble and played at Tar Heel High School. She went to UNC Wilmington, studied film, and then went off to Hollywood to chase her dreams as Beck Black. Well, when acting didn't go as planned, Beck went full tilt into a music career, and she's found success. Beck and her band released several singles and EPs and music videos that have gotten airplay on stations all across the country. But it is her latest track, Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll, that has a real dose of star power. Beck Black, singer, songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist. Welcome to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, John.
All right, the big secret I want to know. How did a young lady from White Oak in Bladen County end up getting music legend Ringo Starr to play drums on her record and on her music video?
Ringo has been working with one of my engineers named Bruce Sugar for 17 years, since 2003. And 2 years ago, Ringo heard a song that we had composed, which was called Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll? And he loved it, but Ringo was working on his own album that came out last year. And Ringo said, man, this is a cool song. I don't have time to play drums on it right now, but you can totally take my drums. This is the way of the future. Like, have some stems that you haven't ever used, and which stems are files in the music world, and chop them up. That's the way of the future. And so Bruce Sugar, the engineer, and I, and co-writer, of the song Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll, we tried it. It didn't really work. It sounded too mechanical when you're chopping up drums and you know. So we didn't know what we were gonna do about it. But like back in January, and the engineer Bruce was at Ringo's house in Malibu, and somehow they started talking about the song, and Ringo remembered it. He goes, "You guys haven't recorded drums on that yet, mate?" He goes, "Let's do it right now." And Ringo recorded on his drum set with his Beatles cymbals, and he did 4 takes. And he said, that'll be $3.
$3?
Yeah. He's got a great sense of humor. And so anyway, so that's how he started playing on the song. And that was back in January that he recorded the drums. I'm a co-producer of the track, so I am so honored to be a co-producer on a track with a Beatle, with Ringo Starr. So we were trying to figure out like a video or a lyric video. And I was filming a SAG feature film in Austin, Texas, because my band and I were supposed to play at South by Southwest this year. And South by got canceled due to coronavirus. And the odd thing is we were doing a film about a rock star that gets a virus and gets quarantined, but we were in pre-production since last November. So way before any of this happened. We were actually working with local news legend Judy Maggio from Austin News, because she was going to play the newscaster in our film. And Shirley, but it was just odd because I got a call from Judy one day. She goes, "We're going to have to start learning how to report the news from home." And that's just when I was like, this virus is bigger than any of us or we ever conceived of. And so anyways, I had some footage that I produced of a 1965 Galaxy car driving around Austin, which was now boarded up. And Austin to me represents, because Austin city limits, it's the city of rock and roll. And so I thought, well, since this movie's been scratched, why not use it for a lyric video? Bruce, the engineer, he called me. He goes, Ringo's got this amazing camera guy and editor named Brent Carpenter, and he's willing to edit this for you guys. And so Ringo's personal editor, he edited the whole shoot for us and used the drone footage. And I just filmed my own lips here, actually, with this iPad I'm on. and sent the files over. And we did the best we could during quarantine to make a cool rock and roll video, because there's so many lyrics in this song. I thought it was important for people to be able to process them, you know?
You're one of the co-writers of the song. Where did the concept come from of who's going to save rock and roll?
So Bruce Sugar, he actually was one of my engineers on one of my songs called Red Dog. And so he said, you know, I'm down with mixing this song for you, but in the future, I want you to co-write with me. And so one day I went over to his studio in Hollywood, and he said, I have this song and it's called Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll. But at the time it was in a different key. So it was, there wasn't that many lyrics there. So I went in as a co-producer and said, let's drop it like from a B flat to an A flat. Let's drop it a key. Let's double the melody. And so he had the chorus, which was Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll, but I went in and added this whole other mindscape to it, because rock and roll seems to be a dying genre. A lot of people have always said for years, because I've been in the music scene in Hollywood for years, they said rock and roll is dead. And so that's sort of where we came up with the theme of it, saying, how can we bring rock and roll back? How can we keep it alive? And who else than with Ringo Starr?
Yeah, that's awesome. When you read that the LA Weekly says, writing about Ringo's 80th birthday, he appears on the fantastic new song and video, Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll, by brilliant LA artist Beck Black. What does that do for your confidence when something like that comes out?
It definitely makes me feel smart. I was really astonished that one of the main editors for LA Weekly, Brett Caldwell, quoted me as a brilliant LA artist. And I'm glad, even though I'm originally from North Carolina, I graduated from film school at UNCW underneath Frank Capra Jr.'s program there, that I'm considered an LA artist, because I've been in Los Angeles for 13 years. And so I'm glad to be an LA artist and a Carolina girl at the same time. But it really did help, because I have to be honest with you, John, it's not been the easiest time as an artist, because the stage is bare, the lights are dim. I don't know when we'll ever be able to get back on a stage again. And it breaks my heart. You know, it feels like a part of me is missing because I'm not performing. And I mean, and not only as a musician, but as an actress, because just think about theater. I mean, theater might be a lost art in itself, you know? I think it really gave me the confidence that I needed when LA Weekly wrote that. It gave me some sort of morale boost that I needed to hear, because we are our own worst critic.
Yeah, I know that. I've been doing it for 37 years, critiquing myself as I watch newscast tapes and playbacks. Growing up, Rebecca, in Bladen County, what was that like?
I grew up by the Cape Fear River, and I continue to write about that river in my scripts that I write. I have one script named Train Jumper. But growing up in White Oak, for instance, it was like all about riding bicycles and exploring the Cape Fear River. And I was in the middle of the woods. And actually, we had a peacock farm when I was growing up. And so it's like I had more friends that were animals than people, because there wasn't many people around. I think it was definitely a shock when I moved to Los Angeles. But as a young child, even when I was 5 years old, I used to always say I wanted to be an actress and I wanted to move to California. And when I went to UNCW, I graduated with a film degree, but that was to help me be a smart actress, because I wanted to know every element about cameras, about how to write, how to be able to be sufficient as an artist, holistically. And so when I moved to LA, I was, you know, a little country girl, a little country accent. And I think now that I'm back here in Bladen County for the moment, my country accent definitely has come back. My friends in LA have told me that. So, but yeah, I think it's, it's interesting. I'm glad I grew up in the country. I'm glad I got to ride bikes as a little kid, wandering around. I think it really built character. But fortunately for me, I was able to travel a lot as a child. I went to Africa on safari when I was 9. I've been all over South America. I've been to Europe. And so I think traveling around the world really opened my eyes beyond everyday life in White Oak.
Now, you, if I'm not mistaken, you took piano lessons young in life. You learned how to play flute in the band, I guess, at Tar Heel High School. You learned how to play bass guitar. As a father of 3 kids and seeing schools and education change.
There's my guitar.
Oh, there you go. Cool. Seeing education change, the arts is really kind of a lost art in school, but you really were introduced to it at a young age and really kind of fueled your passion to do what you wanted to do for a career, right?
I trained classical piano for several years when I was 10, and I played classical flute. We had like a Mr. Holland's opus at Tar Heel at the time. Because of the embouchure of the flute, he had me try the French horn, and I did percussion. And then he said, you have a background in keyboard. You can play bass in keyboard. I was like, oh, I didn't really know that. He was like, yeah, it's what Raymond Zurich did and the Doors. So I joined this jazz ensemble, and we would play 25-6-4 by Chicago,
Yep.
and Black Magic Woman by Santana. And in the middle of football games, I had 2 guys carrying my keyboard out to the halftime in the middle of the football field, and I would be the bass player. So I think that really inspired me as an artist to play bass as a keyboardist.
You worked here at WECT. How did you come about getting a job here at WECT?
So when I graduated from UNCW with a film degree, I called WCT first thing. And because I grew up watching WECT, and it was a dream to me to work for WECT News. And I got an email back from Tom Cheatham, and he said, come in for an interview. And I did. And I worked with WCT for 2.5 years. And I started out doing cameras in the studio, and then I became the sound mixer. And I would make the newscast really fun with different sounds and things like that. But I was actually the first sound mixer because WCT was the pilot station at the time that went from analog to digital. So because the console at WCT at the time was like a 1970s analog concert board. So I was the first sound mixer at the helm for the digital newscasts.
And at any point, I mean, I know you said when you were younger you wanted to do music, but at any point did TV possibly enter your thought process, or was this just a way to kind of make some money and then take that next step?
Yeah, TV has been a big part of my life. Actually, right before I left to go to LA, I was training to be a reporter at WECT, which maybe one day I can still be a reporter at WECT. But it was like I had Hollywood, in my mind. I was like, I've got to go to Hollywood. And so my first jobs in Hollywood were working at actually Nickelodeon as a producer's assistant, as a production assistant. And then I went on to be a stunt double on Twilight, the first film of that series. I was Kristen Stewart's double. I was in front of a green screen in a harness doing the wire work for the flying scene. So I'm actually I was like the light in for that. It was like not stand in because I was flying, but I called myself the fly in. And also I did some stunt work on that, jumping out of a car and things like that. And so I've been featured like little small bit parts on television for a while. Like last year I was on the TV show SWAT as a crying hostage in a record shop. And I was on Grey's Anatomy once as a love interest. Only had one word line, which was like "thank you." And so, I mean, little bit parts for years, but I'm in the Screen Actors Guild, and I have been for over a decade. And now I'm making my own films. So, and yeah.
How hard is it, Beck? We have a lot of people who have those dreams, who want to get out to Hollywood, who want to be big rock and roll stars or be movie or TV stars. But it's not easy. I've heard a lot of different stories. How many times did you come close to saying, see you later?
Oh, gosh, every other day. It seems like that. My first big break, actually, because entertainment is not easy to get into. I tell you that. And my first big break, my first SAG part was on Clint Eastwood's Changeling. And I was playing a roller skater. I had been fitted for 1930s clothes a month in advance. And Clint Eastwood loved me on the set. Angelina Jolie did as well. I got a little too much attention the first day that the wardrobe woman took notice and decided that next morning that she needed to change my outfit several times. She said I looked too much like the lead, that we were both wearing green, and kept me off the set. I didn't really understand protocol at the time, and we were at Warner Brothers. We were actually shooting in the same telephone room that they did for A Star Is Born. So anyways, we were there in that telephone room, and I got to set that second day, and the first AD came up to me and goes, "Where have you been? We've been looking all over for you. Clint Eastwood had a part for you," and they gave it to somebody else.
Oh,
And now I think my picture's on the deleted scenes for that movie. So you can be there, you can be right in the moment, but you never know what can happen, because you're dealing with a lot of people's egos on the set. To be honest, I mean, I can't sugarcoat it for you.
right.
It's a little difficult. So I was there. I had an opportunity. Clint Eastwood wanted me to have a little part, and this wardrobe woman kept me off the set and didn't even tell anybody where I was at. And I was heartbroken after that. And after that kind of happened, I kind of didn't really want to be in the film industry anymore, because you can have talent, you can have a degree, you can be there at the right moment, but anything can happen. And that's when I joined the music industry, because I thought to myself, nobody can ever try to inhibit me like that again. And so I went full throttle into the music industry after that.
You perform under Beck Black, but you also have other players in your band, correct?
Right. So when I went to Music Full Throttle, we were the Moonbeams, and we played the Troubadour and everywhere. We were doing really well. And my guitarist at the time, he wanted to split. And he no longer wanted to play guitar, because he was playing for Perry Farrell and Scott Weiland and lots of very famous acts. So he was going on the road. So when I called him Moonbeam as an affectionate pet name, so when he left the band, I had to rebrand ourselves, and we were headed to South by Southwest in 2014. So I rebranded us as Beck Black. But I was actually the last person that wanted to be called Beck Black, because I have to talk about myself in third person on stage. So it's like, we are Beck Black. My drummer is Adam Alt. He's from a very well-known drum percussion brand called Street Drum Corps. And my guitarist is Mo Madiquin. So we've been touring. We actually played the Troubadour last year again. And we play the Whiskey A Go-Go quite often. The Viper Room was like a big place. We were like just playing on the Sunset Strip. So I'm known in LA, but I just wish I was known, throughout the world, because every artist wants their music to get out. I've been very lucky that my music's been playing on Sirius XM. Rodney Bingenheimer, he's been a radio DJ for over 40 years. He discovered David Bowie. He discovered Blondie, the Ramones, and he's been airing the song with Ringo Starr and I, Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll, for 6 consecutive weeks. Also, Joe Walsh from the Eagles was supposed to play it a couple weeks ago, because he's actually Ringo's brother-in-law. They're married to sisters.
Right.
Actually, today for Ringo's big birthday, Joe will be on there, Paul McCartney, and that will be airing at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. our time today. But to answer your question, Beck Black is a trio, but Beck Black is also a brand. In addition to doing rock music, I'm also starring in adventure with country, and I just recorded an EP called Electric Cowgirl in Nashville, Tennessee, and in New York City last
Nice.
year.
Nice. So you're
Thank you.
branching. So you're branching out. You mentioned a couple of minutes ago the Whiskey A Go Go, the Viper Room. I mean, these are legendary places where, big time rock and roll acts have played and come and gone. When you walk into a place like that, does it lift your performance level? Do you say Motley Crue was on this stage, Van Halen was on this stage, U2 played here, The Doors played here? Or do you just have to go out there and say, look, I'm Beck, this is who I am, this is what you're going to get? Is there any of that awe as you walk in and get on stage?
Oh yeah, you could feel it. I mean, just walking into some of those places, you can really feel the energy there. The Troubadour really is an interesting place. So is the Whiskey A Go Go. One of my favorite bands growing up was the Doors. While I was riding my bicycle around White Oak in the middle of the woods, I was listening to the Doors. So playing at the Whiskey A Go Go was a very big accomplishment for me. And that was actually my last gig last year in August, was at the Whiskey A Go Go, besides doing some festivals, but at a venue. And I'm part of this Ultimate Jam fam. So we get together and you don't even get to rehearse. You're with all the pros playing. You have to go on stage cold, knowing what you're doing. And so I do that quite often. I did do a benefit a couple years ago to help Mexico at the time. There was like an earthquake there a couple years ago, so we did a big benefit. I actually asked my friend Corey Feldman to join us. I hired a mariachi band, and we raised thousands of dollars to benefit Mexico and bring water there. And then I did a benefit for Puerto Rico after that. So, but one of the most rewarding things isn't just walking into the room where a lot of greats have played, is actually you can help other people with music and with performing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best feeling of all.
For those of you who are out there and have not heard of Beck Black, go to beckblack.com. You can see a lot of videos. And, Beck, 2014 South by Southwest helps you start releasing the single Life's a Circus and Rock On in 2014, American Mister in 2015. Then your EP came out with Red Dog, which is a great music video of you in that pink
Thank
car
you.
coming up in the desert over that little red dog. I saw that again today.
Thank
You're described almost like as Susie and the Banshees, I guess, is one of the things that I saw. But as I looked at it, I got more of a Blondie kind of thing from you.
you. Yeah.
And that's because, I mean, Blondie in the 70s, when I was growing up, Blondie was the first one that did the rap, and then she did The Tide is High and some of these other things. And that's what I get when I see a lot of your stuff. What do you get when you see a lot of your stuff? Or what's a compliment to you when somebody says, hey, you're like, or hey, you're like?
When people tell me, I remind them of David Bowie. Because actually I did a benefit for LGBT for Pride Month last year, and I performed Heroes by David Bowie at the Whiskey A Go Go, and that was to help the Trevor Foundation against bullying. And so when people compare me to David Bowie, and to know that one of the most well-known radio DJs in the world, Rodney Bingenheimer, formerly of K-Rock FM, now Sirius XM, Channel 21, Stephen Van Zant's Underground Garage. When people say I remind them of David Bowie, some sort of quality of me, that is a huge compliment. Blondie is a very huge compliment. Back in January, I recorded with her drummer, Clem Burke. We did a cover of Joy Division's Level Tear Us Apart, but we did it country. So some producers flew me out to LA because they wanted true country, right? Bladen County.
Yeah.
To come out there and sing Level Tear Us Apart with the lead singer of Drama Rama, John Easdale. And he had a very popular band in the 90s. So working with Clem is such an honor. The drummer of Blondie, he's been with her since the 70s.
Well, I'll tell you,
I think another...
the one that I think you really come across as a country performer is "Don't Call Me Darling." That's the one
Yeah.
that for most of your videos and songs, you are kind of in my face. You're going to like me or you're not going to like me. But "Don't Call Me Darling" is that country-esque. It almost reminds me of that 60s and 70s kind of a stuff with a little bit of a smirk, a little bit of a,
Right. Tongue in
a
cheek.
face, yeah. But
Yeah.
it shows me that you can do a couple of different kinds of styles.
Thank you. Yeah, I work with a company out of Austin, Texas called Warm Audio Microphones. I'm one of their featured artists. And I sent them Don't Call Me Darling. I had a demo of it. And they said, you should go to Nashville. We're going to have a bunch of amazing musicians, session musicians, such as Jeff King, who's Reba McEntire's guitarist. And he's playing on the track. And we went to Berry Hill in Nashville, which is a very famous studio section. And I did that song. And then the owner of Warm Audio Microphones loved the country song so much. He says, let's have Beck write 4 more. And instead of going to Nashville, I thought I'd rather just do country in New York City. I know that sounds odd, but because I'm a multi-instrumentalist, I worked with an engineer named Dante Latanzi, and we together played all the instruments. And we're our own sort of country band, and we created the EP Electric Cowgirl, which I'll be releasing soon, with tracks like He Won't Leave, Gotta Get Back to My Baby Again, which I did a music video in Manhattan last fall. And that's why I actually dyed my hair dark. So it's kind of like rock country. These are actually my natural roots.
Well, your natural roots are in Bladen County too, so it's kind of ironic as you're doing the interview today. I know you're working on Train Jumper, your screenplay. You've already talked about the Electric Cowgirl coming out. What else are we going to hear now that the Ringo Starr record is out and some of the other things you have? Where else are we going to see Beck Black in 2020?
Hollywood Boulevard's coming out. It's a 9-song album. Which I actually re-recorded. Life's a Circus. I made more of a classical intro to that. There's several songs on that one I should send it to you. It's going to be a really cool rock album. Hollywood Boulevard, the title track's already playing on Sirius XM. I gave it to Rodney Bingenheimer as a gift, even though it's not out yet, because he's like, you got to release that. And so that will be coming out. I also have a band called Jinx. I was working with Linda Perry, the very famous and renowned producer. So that's more of a pop band where I rap and do more of a Blondie thing. If you were to hear that, you definitely would say Blondie. We actually repainted the Roxy for the first time since the 1970s, and I came up with putting a keyboard on it. So when you drive by the Roxy, you can see there's a keyboard on it. I play guitar in that band, and we had 2 songs that were on Dumplin' the movie on Netflix. And so we also have those songs coming out with my secondary band Jinx. So it's just like there's a lot of music coming out, so much. And I also perform and record with Tony Valentino from the Standells. His song Dirty Water is the theme song for the Boston Red Sox. And so him and we redid Ride on the Sunset Strip. I rewrote some of it to make it more positive in nature. And we have a new song coming out called Another Dimension, which is going to be very Twilight Zone. I actually have to record the vocals for that today or this week. Mm-hmm. So I'm recording from home. Thank goodness for Warm Audio. They sent me the equipment so I can do that. I'm not a technician, even though I used to be a sound mixer for WCT, but I try my best,
Beck, reflect for me for a moment. There's really not a place that's farther from LA or Hollywood than rural Bladen County, North Carolina. There's a lot of young ladies, young boys that are in middle school who have that dream, who just started playing guitar, just started playing piano, and they have that dream to want to be a rock star or be a movie star. It's not easy, but what do you tell a young boy or a young girl today who has those dreams? As somebody who came from rural Bladen County, what do you tell them?
I would tell them, to all of you wonderful, dear artists out there that if you have a dream, you can make it happen. All you have to do is believe in yourself. And as long as you can believe in yourself, you can do anything. You can come from any background, from anywhere in the world, even from Bladen Lakes Elementary School where I went, and I first learned how to sing from my my first grade teacher. She taught me about music, and I was inspired from that day forward. I would sing on the school bus on the little dirt road we had to ride on for 15 miles to get through the Bladen Lake State Forest. You can do it. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. As long as you have that dream and you have that love in your heart, you can go anywhere.
And is that what you think about some days when it's the hardest?
I have to remind myself that the industry is very tough. And there's something that I've been thinking about lately. It's like when people call you names, or they try to bully you, or whatever they try to do, whatever they say about you is actually a reflection of what they think about themselves. And that really helps, because the industry is tough. Like I said, even the Clint Eastwood movie, a wardrobe woman keeping me off the set, because she didn't want to see someone, have a chance that day. People will try to drag you down, and they'll try to drag you low to their level, but don't let them. It's your choice. Don't take it personal. It's like the 4 agreements. Always do your best. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take it personal. And what is the 4th one? What is the 4th one? Geez, that must be the most important one. But I know that the best thing I can say is always do your best and don't take things personal, because what other people are going through, sometimes they try to put it on you, and just let it, just brush it off and keep going, and keep your head up, and don't let anyone ever try to tear you down, because they will. But you have to be strong within your own self and foundation, because with self-love, you can do anything. That's all we really want at the end of the day, is to be accepted, so, but we have to really accept ourselves first.
Now that your song, Who's Gonna Save Rock and Roll, is out with the legendary Ringo Starr on your video and playing drums on your track, nobody can ever take that away from Rebecca from Bladen County.
Thank you, John. That's right. You've actually given me some inspiration right now that you're right. Nobody can take that away. And I know that Ringo loves the song. He said Beck Black really sang her butt off. And he's excited it's on the radio, and because he knows Rodney's been playing it, and he thinks the song rocks. And I really hope that, him and I are going to create more music together. That's in discussion right now with his engineer. And you're right. Nobody can take that away. And as long as you have a dream and you keep believing in yourself and believing in your dream, you can do anything.
Beck, it's good to talk to you, and we wish you the very best. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, John. It's such an honor to be interviewed by you. I watch you every day, so.
A big thank you to Beck Black for sitting down and taking part in this week's podcast interview. If you want to learn more about her, go to beckblack.com. You can follow her on social media. She's Beck Black on Facebook. She's under Beck Black Music on Instagram. She has her own YouTube channel where you can watch all of her music videos, and you can also hear her material on Spotify and also on iTunes. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please download and subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you would be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. The more feedback we have from you, the higher we'll be listed on the apps, and the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's episode of One-on-One. Stay safe.